During the Thousand Year Blood War arc, we are treated to a flashback which reveals to us that Isshin Kurosaki was the former captain of the 10th Division. Continuing from this, we find out that Isshin's Zanpakuto is called Engetsu, which is strikingly similar to the name of Ichigo's Zanpakuto Zangetsu. We are also aware from the Fate Karakura Town arc that Isshin can also use the Getsuga Tenshō. Now, despite being drip-fed all of this cool information about Isshin's powers, throughout the series we haven't gotten a reveal of Isshin's Bankai. On Kubo's fan club outside in question 472, he had answered to a fan who had inquired about whether if the name and characteristics of a Zanpakuto are similar between a parent and their child. Kubo confirms this by stating that the similarities do not only end with a parent and child, but they also exist between Shinigami who have a blood connection. So in this video, I want to theorize if Isshin's Bankai is similar to Ichigo's, or whether if he has an entirely different Bankai based upon some of the abilities that we have seen him utilize within his Shikai. Now make sure that you stick around until the very end of this video, as I'll be taking a deep dive into some of the comments that Aizen has made regarding Isshin's powers. Additionally, I will be analyzing whether if not members of the Shiba Clan are born with the innate ability to utilize the Getsuga Tenshō. So join me as we break down and analyze the mystery behind Isshin's Bankai. Within chapter 531, we see Isshin battle against the Hollow White. It is here where he releases his Zanpakuto Engetsu. Now the name of his Zanpakuto translates to Scathing Moon, and it's no accident that the naming convention is very similar to Ichigo's Zanpakuto Zangetsu, which translates to Slaying Moon. Engetsu in its Shikai form does not change shape, but the blade of the Zanpakuto is engulfed in flames and is able to leave a trail of fire when it releases an attack. Now one notable aspect of Engetsu is that Isshin is able to enhance its power by spitting his own blood onto the blade, which instantly releases a huge torrent of flames. Now the release command for Engetsu's Shikai is Burn, and it is one of the 4 fire-type Zanpakuto that can be found within the Soul Society. The most famous fire-type Zanpakuto is of course Head Captain Yamamoto's Ryujin Jaka. In question number 387 answered on Kubo's official fan club, he addresses a fan's question about whether if Isshin's Zanpakuto Engetsu was actually a Zanpakuto that had belonged to a member of the 5 great noble families. This is because nobody within Bleach has ever discussed Isshin's connection to Ichigo, despite Ichigo having used the Getsuga Tenshō in front of several different Shinigami. In response to this question, Kubo clarifies that there are 3 reasons as to why Isshin was not connected to Ichigo. One of the reasons included the fact that Isshin's Getsuga Tenshō differs from Ichigo's. While Ichigo's Getsuga Tenshō condenses his spiritual pressure, Isshin's technique is a close-ranged attack in which both fire and Reiatsu are released in the form of a slash. In chapter 507, it is established that a Shikai and a Bankai pretty much have related or similar abilities. So with this in mind, I will be basing my theories on Isshin's Bankai based upon all of the knowledge that we learn about Isshin's Shikai. Isshin's ability to manipulate both fire and blood within his Shikai form suggests that his Bankai could amplify these abilities in more complex and possibly even more dangerous ways. Isshin's noble lineage stemming from the Shiba Clan also adds another layer of mystery to his character, and it may also play a pivotal role in shaping the unique characteristics of his Bankai, thus setting it apart from the other fire-type Zanpakuto within the Soul Society. Whatever the case may be, we can establish from the get-go that Isshin's Bankai would further escalate his already formidable power, and his lineage to the Shiba Clan may influence the combat abilities that he demonstrates within his Bankai form. A pivotal reveal about Isshin's Bankai is made in chapter 532, when Aizen states that Isshin's Bankai puts a considerable strain on his body. This renders him unable to use his Bankai if he is heavily injured. Isshin had even acknowledged this limitation himself, stating that his injuries were so severe they were preventing him from properly harnessing his spiritual energy, thus making it difficult for him to activate and use his Bankai. Bankai. Now, my first theory is centered around this popular idea that fans have, which suggests that Isshin's Bankai follows the theme of a phoenix. In classical mythology, a phoenix was a legendary bird that lived for 5 to 6 centuries in the Arabian desert. A phoenix burns itself on a funeral pyre and then rises from the ashes with renewed youth in order to live through another cycle. This imagery of rebirth and regeneration is often depicted with flames and fiery tail feathers, and the feathers of a phoenix appear to look similar to the tassels that come off of Isshin's Zanpakuto. Additionally, the phoenix symbolizes not just fire but also blood, emphasizing themes of birth and renewal. So personally, I have always envisioned Isshin's Bankai as having fiery wings, similar to those seen in Hitsugaya's Bankai, but with a fiery twist. Now, I theorize that this Bankai of Isshin's could potentially possess two primary abilities. The first ability may involve amplifying the power of his flames by using his own blood. Now, the concept of this ability links back to the phoenix, which is often associated with both fire and regeneration. The second ability, which I think his Bankai would exhibit, would likely be a direct nod to the myth of a phoenix regenerating. Upon activation of his Bankai, Isshin may be able to continuously heal back to the state that he was in at the very moment that his Bankai was activated. In an ideal situation, Isshin would activate his Bankai at maximum health, and thus any injuries that he sustains by an opponent would momentarily enhance the flame power of his Bankai, which would then heal him back to his original state. Now, this aspect of his Bankai would make Isshin an exceptionally challenging opponent to fight against. His enemies' attacks could inadvertently strengthen him, and so an opponent would need a power like Byakuya's Bankai Zenbon-Zakura Kageyoshi in order to repeatedly inflict a lot of damage, which would outpace the healing rate of Isshin's Bankai, or alternatively, the opponent would need to have more Reiatsu than Isshin so that they can wait for his to deplete and his Bankai to deactivate. Now, this dual ability Bankai theory would explain why Isshin was unable to use his Bankai when he was injured in the Everything But the Rain flashback, because if he activates his Bankai with any wounds that he has sustained, then his Bankai would ensure that they stay open. The continual bleeding of the wound would then excessively fuel his Bankai flames, and this would not only deplete Isshin's stamina very quickly, but it would also risk uncontrollable large-scale flames, potentially causing extensive collateral damage, especially to the world of the living. And so while his Bankai may be able to deliver a few powerful strikes, its uncontrollable nature in a wounded state would be both a risk to Isshin's life as well as a tactical and environmental hazard. Another compelling Bankai theory involves Isshin's ability to manipulate his blood. Now, this theory stems from Isshin's Shikai when he had used his blood in order to amplify his flames. Now, this technique, while potentially powerful, carries the risk of significant blood loss, as it embodies a very high risk, high reward kind of strategy, which is in line with some of the other dangerous Bankai that we have seen. The drawback of this Bankai theory would be the physical toll that it would take on Isshin, particularly within extended fights, where the over-reliance on his blood as a power source may lead to severe strain on his body. Now, diverging from these common theories which state that Isshin's Bankai is fire-based, an alternative theory suggests that Isshin's Bankai may be focused on manipulating heat. Now, this concept proposes that Isshin could drastically raise the temperature of his surroundings, creating a hostile, scorching environment for both himself and his opponent. This approach offers a very unique perspective on his Bankai, as it focuses more on environmental control rather than him directly wielding and manipulating fire. Building on this, the next theory presents Engetsu as not just a fire-centric Zanpakuto, but a blade that is predominantly heat-focused, one that is similar to Rukia's Zanpakuto in the way that it manipulates the cold. We are aware that a Zanpakuto is the personified inner soul of a Shinigami. What if Engetsu, which literally translates to scathing moon, has a fiery temper when awakened? Basically, Isshin's Zanpakuto embodies a fiery, hot-headed personality, so when it is awakened, it would ignite all of the massive amounts of Reiatsu around it, similar to how striking a match would ignite the gas within the air. This would mean that upon activating the Bankai of Engetsu, it would elevate all of the local temperatures to extreme levels. Such a Bankai would be the antithesis of Rukia's, with Isshin's body potentially becoming encased in flames. Now, the concept of this Bankai links back very neatly with the Getsuga Tenshō technique. Both father and son possess vast Reiatsu reserves, which they can condense and manipulate. Now, in this particular scenario, the Bankai of Engetsu would be extremely dangerous for Isshin's opponent, as any sort of Reiatsu that they have released would end up becoming a source of fuel for the fires of Isshin's Bankai. Isshin would then be able to throw his own Reiatsu into the mix, as he would then grow the flames into a blazing inferno. Now the next theory suggests that Isshin's Bankai would take up a oil-based nature. Now this idea stems from the observation that Isshin's flames intensify when his blood makes contact with his Zanpakuto. This builds upon the blood manipulation theory that I spoke about earlier, as this theory poses that Isshin's body is a vessel for a volatile flammable liquid, which of course is his blood. Now in this theory, even minor wounds that Isshin sustains could become deadly, with his body acting as a fuel reservoir and the flames behaving like oil. Now this type of Bankai theory suggests that its attacks will be incredibly volatile, but at the same time, with his blood fueling his Bankai, it would pose a massive danger to his life, making this type of Bankai very impractical to use. Now there are some theories which propose that Isshin's Bankai is similar to Ichigo's, as it involves condensing flames into a sword-like form, but this concept will be too similar to Head Captain Yamamoto's Bankai Zanka no Tachi and its East form. This idea involves Isshin compressing his flames to an extreme extent, as he creates immense pressure similar to overfilling a balloon with hot air. The success of such a Bankai would hinge on Isshin's physical condition, as maintaining control over the concentrated flames would be critical in order to prevent a catastrophic release of energy. The thing that makes Engetsu very difficult to theorize about is that Kubo does his best to make Zanpakuto of the same element very distinctive and unique. Now one of the examples that I can give of this is comparing Rukia to Hitsugaya. While Hitsugaya's Bankai Daiguren Hyorinmaru focuses on generating large quantities of ice by manipulating all of the water in the atmosphere, Rukia's Bankai Haka no Togame on the other hand focuses on the cold by manipulating the temperature of herself and her opponent to absolute zero. Now you can't really speculate too much about Isshin's Bankai because Ryujin Jaka does basically everything that you can imagine a fire-based Zanpakuto would do. My only guess is that Isshin's Bankai is a big one-time nuke similar to Soifon's Bankai. So when Isshin was injured, it was too risky for him to use his Bankai because he wouldn't have total and absolute control over it, and thus there would be a lot of collateral damage to the world of the living. I believe that Isshin's Bankai definitely has something to do with self-immolation, which is the act of setting oneself on fire. In the context of Isshin's Bankai, it's related to setting alight his own blood. Now this Bankai is a nice contrast to Yamamoto's Zanpakuto, which was about complete and spontaneous combustion. Isshin's Bankai could require high stamina due to its self-damaging nature, whereby the intensity of his flames increase along with his energy expenditure. His Reiatsu is literally the fuel of his flames, suggesting that overuse of his Bankai could be figuratively and literally self-consuming, which is a nice way of symbolizing this concept of setting yourself on fire, or following this motif of self-sacrifice, which is in line with Isshin's role as a father and a protector. Now this concept of balancing immense power with a risk of personal harm is perfectly in line with his character, because he had to sacrifice his position within the Soul Society in order to save Masaki. So it would be great for a Bankai to follow this same theme, which would explain why his physical condition plays a very important part for his Bankai activation. In the end, Isshin's Bankai is very similar to his character. It's complex, it blends several elements of fire, as well as different strategies, along with some unexpected properties. Now this makes the anticipation for his Bankai reveal even more exciting for fans. It's unlikely that Kubo will design Isshin's Bankai to mirror Ichigo's, as I believe that Kubo dropped a massive hint to his Bankai when he had shown Isshin strengthening the flames of his Shikai by using his own blood. Now I'd love to hear all of your thoughts about Isshin's Bankai. What do you think about some of the theories in this video? Do you agree with any of the theories that I have proposed, or do you have your very own theories about his Bankai? Do you think that it's similar to Ichigo's or substantially different? Definitely continue the discussion in the comments. And lastly, thank you for making it to the end of this video, and I cannot wait to see you in my next Bleach video. If you enjoy my content, then you can support my channel through Patreon for as little as $1 a month, or even through YouTube by becoming a channel member. You will gain access to exclusive channel perks and a Discord server which I frequently use. So become a member of my Zero Division and be the first to know about my upcoming videos. And once again, thank you for sticking around till the end of the video, and whatever you contribute will mean a lot to me.